No one looks more desperate than the person who's constantly seeking the approval of everyone around them.
Yeah.
The irony of that is the people who tend to get approval, who tend to look cool and get the respect, are people who don't really care about whether or not you respect them.
Yeah.
They behave how they behave, and if you respect it, then you respect it.
Yeah.
If you don't, it doesn't really matter to them. Have you ever seen a $250,000 handbag? Why does this bother me so much? Take a look at this video.
What are some of the rarest bags you guys have right now?
One of the rarest bags we currently have in stock is the creme de la creme of Hermes Birkin bags. It is the Himalayan Birkin bag, and this is going to set you back like the price of a condo. This is brand new with stickers, and it is actually a better deal than most resale sites. We have it here for an amazing price of $195,000 Canadian, whereas some sites will sell this for over $250,000 Canadian dollars. And we don't only have one of these. We don't have two of these. We have three of these in stock. We have it in the Birkin and we have it in the Kelly.
I'm not sure why this bothers me so much. By the way, let me know in the comments if it bothers you. But TK, maybe you can shine a light on it, onto my psychology. Why does this bother me?
I'm going to ask a couple of questions that'll help us get there. Do you feel like she ought to be using that money towards something else?
No. Although maybe there's some residue from that money would be better spent. Now, I can say this, if I had that bag, and of course I'm not going to buy a Birkin bag, but let's put it into some other material possession that a $250,000 watch. I don't even wear a watch, but I could see a world. I used to wear expensive watches. I had a Rolex and a Tag Heuer. Like I had watches that were expensive, and back in my corporate days. That's not the best use of that money for me. I'm not even saying it's not the best use of that money for someone else. Maybe what bothers me, and unpack this with me, maybe what bothers me is it's the false desire, the mimetic desire created by this sense of scarcity and prestige and status.
You believe her consumer choice represents or reflects some broader mindset and culture such that even if not everyone can afford to act like her, that's how most people or many people think they should act.
Well, and there's a lot of teenagers now. Yeah. I remember I got a job when I was 13 at Americana in Middletown, Ohio, and I was making $4.25 an hour, and I used my whole summer working 40 plus hours a week, used my whole summer paychecks in a day to buy the freshest clothes. I wanted the Tommy Hilfiger jacket and the Ralph Lauren and the polo and the Nautica. Like, this is the 90s, mid-90s. And I'm wearing like the freshest clothes back to school, right? But now, like, that is considered low brow. Now it's like, what about Gucci? What about Prada? What about Balenciaga? If you don't have Louis Vuitton, who are you even, right? And it's making people feel inadequate because I'm going to put myself up on a pedestal and I carry those possessions onto the pedestal to show you how high up on the pedestal I am. And yeah, I'm bothered by that.
It's interesting because I always wonder when I see things like this online, how much of the real world is reflected by it. Obviously, these companies are in business and they're getting paid and there's a strong customer base. They're not going out of business next week. But then I come from a space where in the South, Middle America, you just don't hear that kind of talk. People might even make fun of you for having something like that.
That's right.
Whereas here in LA, you see it a lot. Either everybody has it or everybody's looking up to the people that have it or feeling bad about themselves for not yet being able to afford it and trying really hard to hustle on something so that they can get it. So it's kind of interesting, just like cultures and where that's prominent and how popular that is.
Yeah, and I think that's really what bothers me here. It's the culture of not enough.
Mm.
You don't have enough unless you have the things that signal you have enough.
Yeah.
And maybe that's ultimately what my problem is here. My problem is that I know that I have enough, you have enough. In fact, if you're listening to this or watching this, you probably have more than enough. And the way you get to enough isn't by buying the Birkin bag, isn't by buying the Louis Vuitton shoes or the Gucci belt. Those things won't complete you. In a way, they will incomplete you. They will separate you from people who you can otherwise connect with. And I think what happens is we use our material possessions not to connect with people as a tool to connect with them, but to disconnect ourselves, to make someone else feel inadequate. Therefore, I can feel adequate.
Oh yeah, that's a very interesting point, because you could say there are two kinds of luxury. Some things are luxurious because they are made of the kind of material, or they require the kind of effort that makes them expensive. There are simply things in life that take so much time and energy that they are expensive by nature. But then some things are luxurious for no other reason than that they are priced in a way that limits access. And what you are really buying is not the quality of materials, but you are buying the right to say, I get to be one of the few people who drive this, who wear this, who own this, or I can be comfortable knowing that a certain type of person will never enter in this space. And that's kind of like an interesting kind of luxury where there's this market to buy something that really amounts to, hey, I'm one of the few people who can buy it. Because what good is having more money than other people if you don't get to use it in a way that sends a signal to them that, hey, I got more money than you.
Oh, fascinating. You know, I really appreciate beauty, and sometimes the things that are beautiful do end up being really expensive. But our idea of beauty is perspectival. The last 2 or 3 days, there's been this van parked in front of my house. But don't worry, it's not like a spy van. I don't think it's the FBI.
I hope not. I'm worried.
Not.
It's an old, like 1993 Ford Aerostar van, and it is a work of art. And I think the average person who were to walk past it would be like, oh, look at this. But I look at it and I marvel at it. And I look at looks like it was made in the 60s by like Braun or something. You can see there's this engineering design that went into the form of this van that I don't see much of anymore. And it's incredibly simple. It's aggressively understated. And there's this beauty that I see that isn't because it's saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. In fact, it's the opposite. It's not trying to be looked at, and that's why it is so beautiful. It's utilitarian, it's stark, and I appreciate those things. I think the average person who walked past it would be like, oh, when are you going to upgrade your van? But I walked past and said, wow, you know what? I'd kind of like to own this. I'd like to drive it. Because to me, it was so understated, not in a way where I'm trying to signal through understating, but I appreciate its beauty regardless of whether or not other people think it's beautiful.
That's so good. One of the dangerous things about watching videos like this for me is it can be real easy to look at this kind of stuff and then snobbishly be like, that's how rich people act. But I'm not like that. There is nothing in me that is like that. And one of the reasons why I think it's a bit oversimplified to quickly assume that money changes people is because more often than not, money simply gives people the freedom, the permission, and the power to express things that were already in them before they had the money, but that they just lacked the option to give expression to. It's like money doesn't make you stop respecting other people. Money doesn't make you talk any kind of way to other people, but poverty can definitely put you in a position where you can lose your job if you talk that way, which is why a lot of people think about F you money in the sense of they have people they want to say F you to, but they just don't feel like they can afford it. You give those people $1 billion, you're going to start seeing an ugly side to them. You're going to start hearing some honest feedback from them. Will money have changed them? No, that's what was always in them. And I think for this person and people like it, they represent so many aspects of our common humanity that not everybody can afford to express, but that's still latent. And that is, I'm not enough until I can have something that I don't have, because my value isn't determined by my being. It's not determined by my creativity. It's determined by something that I got to go out there and get so that I can show it to other people. And then they say, oh yeah, I respect you because of the trophy that's in your hand.
But of course, there is no shortcut to respect, because as soon as you lose the thing, then you lose the other people's respect. There's also another side of that. Needing respect is a type of prison, whether it's respect through the things that you acquire, the clothes that you wear, the bag that you're carrying, the car that you drive, the house that you live in. How many bedrooms do I have? How many bathrooms do I have? Respect me, please.
Yeah.
Man, what a prison that you've put yourself in, needing the respect of someone else. No one looks more desperate than the person who's constantly seeking the approval of everyone around them.
Yeah.
The irony of that is the people who tend to get approval, who tend to look cool and get the respect, are people who don't really care about whether or not you respect them.
Yeah.
They behave how they behave, and if you respect it, then you respect it.
Yeah.
If you don't, doesn't really matter to them.
Yeah, you kind of respect them because they don't need your respect.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.